Moving Forward with Arthritis with Sharon Caddy.
Well, welcome back for another episode of Moving Forward with Arthritis. I'm Sharon Caddy, and it's certainly great to have you along for the ride. Remember to share with your family, your friends, on social media, and of course, podcast platforms and YouTube. And tell you what, subscribe or give us a follow just so you can be advised when there's new episodes coming your way. Well, today, where I'm sitting, I look out the window and it's snowing, but I know that golf season is right around the corner because spring is coming. They keep telling me. I love the game of golf. I only took it up a few years ago, and doing it as someone with arthritis, I know it can be done. The guest I'm going to be talking to now, he's another one who can tell you that you don't have to be limited by your arthritis. In fact, after being diagnosed with juvenile idiopathic arthritis at a really, really young age, he's gone on to continue through being a very sporty guy into golf, and he's a pro at it now. He's also a member of the Patient Advisory Board with Arthritis Research Canada. I want to say hello to and welcome Sadiq Jiwa. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sharon. Great to be here.
It's great to have you here. And I know you are on the West Coast. You're in BC, where you have far more friendly weather for golf, even at this time of year. I'm really jealous. I'm telling you. Here I'm trying to get my clubs cleaned up and wait for the weather. But let's take us through your journey to where you are now, because most people would see when they look at you, being as any arthritis is really an invisible kind of condition. They see you as a healthy guy who plays golf, but take us way back. You got an arthritis diagnosis really young.
That's right. The diagnosis itself took a little bit of time to come up with. The symptoms of my condition started when I was three and a half years old. It took a couple of years, and finally the right doctors sending me to BC Children's rheumatology ward for them to be like, okay, what this is juvenile idiopathic arthritis. And a nutshell of that timeline was it started as pain in the suboccipital region of my neck and a little bit in my jaw, and it was sort of localized in that area. The symptoms looked like just a lot of pain, swelling, and some muscle tightness, to the point where I could only rotate my neck about 10 degrees to one side. But the weird part about my condition was anytime I would take a nap or go to sleep and wake up, I'd have no pain. And that's one of the things that, even to this day, may be a little bit different than what you hear most other patients that have arthritis or similar types of arthritis that I do. It was the really tricky part with my doctors and team originally coming up with this diagnosis, that there were some things that sort of fit the bill around arthritis, and then other things that didn't, medications that responded and medications that didn't. And I think that speaks really to the testament of how individualistic every single condition, arthritis and beyond, how it affects each person differently. And so with me, it started as neck and jaw pain and sort of localized, and then over the years has turned into systemic JIA, in which I have a good chunk of my body that has active disease or has had inflammation in the past from the arthritis, including my hips, my knees, my ankles, everything around my toes, continued issues in my jaw and neck and in my shoulders.
Wow. But even with that diagnosis, and you were just a little guy, you were still a really active kid.
I was, well, hockey was my first love back then. I was a somewhat competitive hockey player. And when I was originally told the diagnosis, I didn't fully understand what that meant. My doctors, my parents, the team all told me that you've got something, you're not necessarily sick, but you've got something that's not going to allow you to participate in activities the same way that my friends would. And that narrative developed over time as well. As the condition evolved and as I went through elementary school and high school, what I saw in me and my mental changes was that I was a little bit hesitant and almost a little bit scared to put my foot forward, because I didn't know if my body was going to hold up for me when I did that. Mm-hmm. That led to transitions of, I was a really sporty guy. I loved playing hockey. I'm a diehard Vancouver Canucks fan, which is very unfortunate. And it led into me turning to a different look for sports, and that's where golf came into my picture. It's a very funny argument between my parents as to who actually introduced me to golf because I think they both want to take the credit for it. My mom took me mini golfing and stuff. My dad actually got me my first set of lessons with my coach. And 19 plus years later, that's gone from swinging a golf club where I took a swing and it just didn't hurt as much as all the other sports that I did to got to a point where I was able to play professional golf on the PGA Tour international affiliate circuits.
Well, that's amazing. Now, when you started to golf, like, did you, especially as you're coming up and you're learning, were there any accommodations you had to make, different things you had to do to sort of make up for pains that you had or any limitations you had?
I think that initially when I started, there wasn't too much of accommodations that needed to happen. As my condition evolved and went into my wrists and my legs and stuff, then we started to have to make changes. Originally, we designed my golf swing and my game around the general fundamentals of how to build a successful golf swing. And there are certain things that people do in their golf swing, and I'm going to try not to get too technical over here, that we need to have happen. We need to be able to turn our shoulders, we need to be able to turn through the golf ball, etc. But the way that everybody does it is different. And what I found out playing on tour, and especially meeting other individuals that have their own conditions or ailments or injuries, is that, yeah, there's certain things that everybody does, but there is no secret recipe in terms of how you go about playing. What the real key is finding something that you're able to do repeatedly, consistently, and be able to predict doing it. And so with me, I've had, because of my hip issues and the swelling and the deterioration in my hips, I couldn't turn my hips the same amount that another professional golfer could, heck, even another recreational golfer. And my coach and my physiotherapist, probably the two biggest blessings I've had in my life, helped me design my golf swing so that it didn't have to go through that same sort of fundamental structure that you would see with some of the average tour players. And what I did was I got really good at knowing and doing what I could do. I could turn my hips this much, I could turn my shoulders this much, and I knew if I got in that position every time and trusted that and took care of my body on the active rehab and physiotherapy side to let it be able to do those basic maneuvers, I could go ahead and play the game. And that's a little bit of how now transitioning as a golf instructor and trying to teach that game a little bit, working with players with chronic conditions and disabilities and injuries and ailments and etc., is that there is no secret recipe. There is no, if I can't turn, my shoulder this month, then I can't play golf. That's absolutely not the case. It's about sort of finding the movements that work with you and your framework, being pain aware, or if possible, pain free when doing it, but really more so pain aware, and then executing that on a consistent and repeatable basis.
Yeah. It's, like I said, I just took up the game a few years back. And what I found really encouraging was that, sometimes we'd go out as a twosome and you get paired up to play the game. Another twosome, they put you together, you're a foursome now. So you're meeting other people. And I think as a new player, my fear was that, oh my God, they're going to pair me up with people who are really, really good and I'm going to look like an idiot. But that's not the case. And in fact, I met people, like you mentioned, with different things that they contend with physically. And it was really encouraging to think that, okay, everybody's out here and they're playing because they love it. They like being outside. They like some physical activity, but they've got their own things they've got to work around and they still can get out there and love the game. And I think that's what really drew me into playing. And it's encouraging that it is a game that you can learn to do within your physical abilities, right?
Absolutely. And I think we're slowly doing the best we can within the golf industry to make it more accessible to people. And one of the unique features that you kind of echoed right here about the way golf works is you can still play with your friends and your buddies and enjoy the game and stuff and be at different levels. But golf is also such an individualistic game that you're also working on what you've got and the stuff that maybe you and your coach are doing, or you have a different purpose for being out there than someone else. And we try to be as inclusive and accommodating as possible with all players to help grow the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I never realized until I actually got out there. I mean, I love it, like I say, but I can go out one day and I'm for at my level, hit it playing pretty good. I feel really good about myself. Oh my God, I got a couple of pars. For me, that's huge, right? That's amazing. And then I'm so excited that let's go again in a few days. And I get out there and it's like, I've never swung a club in my life. And like, your brain gets involved. But it's taught me to just kind of go with the flow and don't go down the rabbit hole of, oh my God, I suck, I'm never playing this again. And it's a really cool game for centering yourself and just, I guess, relaxing, enjoying yourself, taking in what's around you, and while still doing some physical activity. That's what I love about the game.
Absolutely. I think it teaches you a lot of life skills, and that's why we encourage a lot of people that are junior players that are growing up, that it teaches you a lot of great life skills about etiquette, about patience, about camaraderie, about integrity. Like, the game has got all that mixed in, even though it's considered an individual sport. And with the increase and the better use of technology in the game now, we have the ability to create more accommodations. We can get more in depth in the analytics with people. Like, I want to say close to 10 to 15 years ago, we didn't have different grip sizes and different club shafts and all that sort of stuff that we do today. And when you talked previously about accommodations for players, I've got things in my golf set that are very different compared to what other pros do. My clubs are extended. I have grip sizes that are much thicker and wider because I have a hard time holding the golf club if I have a regular size grip. Like, there are things that can be done if you have a condition or injury or ailment or something that can still help you enjoy the game around your limitations.
Yeah. Now, when you're looking at finding, it's like anything else, the tools in golf. It's the tools you're using are your golf clubs, your shoes. Like, that's a big one for me
really
because of my issues. And so if someone's taking up the game, I mean, I took it up by using some, the extra clubs that were discarded in the garage just to see if I liked it, because it's an investment. But once I got out there and thought, okay, I'm not good at this yet at all, but I like it. And so would you recommend that someone go see someone who can help them find something that's going to be a good fit rather than just going on like Marketplace on Facebook and buying a bunch of clubs?
I think all of us have been at that point where we know how expensive golf can get. Mm-hmm. And there are programs that we've got out there to help make that more accessible. But the reality is we do the best that we can with what we have. And as someone that has both been a recreational and competitive player and now an instructor in the industry, I would definitely recommend, if you have the capability to do so, to go see a coach to build sort of your foundational framework of a golf swing. And then two, if you are interested in playing golf a little bit more regularly, to go in and see a fitter, a professional club fitter, and have them look at the framework of the swing that you've got and go, okay, this is what we need to help you sort of get better and enjoy the game a little bit more. I think you start with building that foundational framework with whatever you can scrap with. I mean, that's how we all started. And even still today, we see that happening, right? And that's what a lot of, as an instructor, players come to me with sort of, I'm a new beginner golfer. Here's the set that I'm able to scavenge. And we build a very functional framework of a golf swing. And if we see the investment of them wanting to play, they like it, they enjoy what's happening, then we say, yes, make the investment, go get fitted, get some clubs that are meant for you, that'll help you enjoy the game a little bit more. And it'll make a positive impact.
That's amazing. So now you're teaching, you're coaching, but take me back though to, you took up the game, whether it was mom or dad that got you into it. At what point did you get out there and think, this is a career path?
That's an excellent question. I was always the late bloomer through junior golf. I mean, when I was the last person to make my high school golf team. It's a very touching story between me and my high school coach. Why he picked me as the last guy. I had jammed my fingers before tryouts. I couldn't even hold the golf club. He waved me through the first bit, tied for basically one of the worst scores in tryouts at that time. And he's like, you know what? I had a feeling. I see the work that you put in and I see your story and what you're trying to build. And I want to be a part of that. And he was the big reason that I took up the game and went the way it is. From there, he anointed me as captain of our team. My grade 11 year, we won our first AAA high school provincial championships. And from there, that just continued to be the narrative where golf didn't hurt as much as all the other sports I played. I loved it. And I think I had a little bit of something to prove, like the fact that I had this condition and that I was working twice as hard as the other individuals that were trying to compete, because I was not only working on the golf swing, I was working on maintaining my body and figuring out how to navigate my condition. I wanted to go out there and prove a point and build a legacy that was these conditions, these ailments can't stop you from achieving your goals. So from there, I got recruited. I went to play Kenyon College at the Division III level. Had a few health challenges, unfortunately, through that, and made a very big change to how I managed my arthritis in college. Throughout my collegiate process, we saw glimpses of some of the higher performance play that I was able to produce. And in doing so, we had a couple of tournaments that I came really close to qualifying for some really big pro events while I was in college. And my parents and I talked and said, look, we've got to give this a shot. I mean, there's not every day you get the opportunity to do this, and you've worked so hard up until this point to get there. Let's go and give it a shot. But in order to do that, we needed to get my condition into a more stable scenario, and we needed to change the framework of my game. Like I would say, maxing out the capacity of the framework that I had. We needed to change that framework. It's when I met my physiotherapist that is probably who I attribute more, like about 100% of the reason that I'm still playing today. The guys at Pain Pro, they are the ones that took care of me. They taught me what pain was. They basically taught my condition to me, allowed me to sort of be like, hey, this is what this feels like. This is what this feels like. This is what it means that you need to stop. This is the kind of pain that's not good. This is the kind of pain that is good. That's soreness that you can push through. Teaching me how to listen to my body and just teaching me how to navigate living with arthritis. And that's the greatest blessing that they've been able to give me. They had my back. They supported me. I went into then competing on the amateur circuits through Canada. Ended up holding on to my amateur status through COVID. And then in 2021, made my debut on the PGA Tour Canada circuit and turned pro. Played in a few events there, climbed up the ladder a little bit, moved into playing on some of the professional mini tours and state opens and whatnot across the United States, and just sort of rode that ladder as far as I could and kept that sort of motivating factor behind me of I wanted to build a legacy for me. I wanted to prove a point, and I wanted to be an example for the next person and the next generation of players coming up with what they have and go, hey, you know what? Like, you can do this if you learn how to manage your condition, and if you get the accommodations, and more so have the mental like mindset and attitude, which is one of the hardest battles of all of it. You can get to where you want to go within reason.
That's right. So, I mean, you're a really positive guy, and everything is, forward and positive and forward thinking. And then I read that you missed qualifying for the US Open by a single shot. How do you deal with that? You work so hard.
I think in golf, there's a saying, we talk about the idea that the happiest animal on the planet is a goldfish. And the reason being is they have a 10-second memory, right? That goldfish spins around, or swims around their home and looks, wow, look at my pretty castle. Look at my pretty castle. And if you read any of the mental strategy mindset books, you talk to the sports psychologist. I was very privileged enough that I got to work with a sports psychologist while I was competing. And they go, you cannot let the shot or the thing that's happening in front of you be affected by what you did previously. We go into the past for two reasons. One, to learn from our mistakes, and two, to gain confidence. Any other time that we're going into our past is going to, unfortunately, negatively affect what happens in front. Now, this is all easier said than done, because when I missed out on US Open locals by a shot, and it was the first time I'd even snipped something of that level before, it was tough. It took a little bit of time, right? But I think the big thing that I really appreciated from the way my parents raised me and the team that I had behind me was, look at how close you are. Right? If you focus on we're talking about that extra 1% that you need to get to. It's not like you are a mile away. You are right there. And that means that little bit of extra work, that little bit of sort of push up and you will get there. And it was sort of that feeling and knowing, okay, if I did this the best than anyone else, I could get there. And that really was the engine that ended up driving me to continue the practice, to up the practice, to be more strategic with the way that I handled my condition and my game. And it led to something that I can look back and go, I gave it everything that I possibly
Amazing.
could, and I don't have any regrets for it.
No, but I mean, what a challenge that you took on, taking on a sport like this at this competitive, professional even level, and with arthritis. That's got to be a tough thing. Like, even though, mentally you're, like I say, you're a very forward thinking guy, but you've always got the arthritis in the background. How hard was it at times playing at the level that you were playing with that arthritis always there?
I think what I learned from being out there is the guys that are at the top, they don't necessarily have technically the best golf swings, or they're, necessarily the best players in different facets of the game. What they are is confident in what they do. And the way they do things, whether it be a little bit unorthodox on one side or the other, they are confident in what they do. They can predict what they're doing, and they're consistent in the way they're doing it. That same principle is what I had to develop with my arthritis, because the thing the arthritis really did for me was make me scared. It made me scared to swing. It made me scared to take a step forward, because whenever I didn't listen to it or I didn't know how to manage it, it would throw me down. I had too many incidences where, and I can give you one, my second year of college, we had our initial opening qualifying where we played a lot of holes. Like, I think it was close to 72 holes we played in the span of 2 days, walking in some pretty humid heat, something that I hadn't done before and thought I could get through. And after playing pretty decently, my body collapsed on me. It was the biggest flare that I'd ever had. And it scared my coach, it scared my teammates, it scared me, and my parents, who were across the continent on the West Coast while I was in Ohio. They felt helpless. There was nothing that they could do from over there. And I was sitting basically in the emergency room, all of my joints shaking, in searing pain. And basically, because I didn't manage the condition very well and push through without listening to my arthritis, I was out for the whole season. And so what all of these incidences did leading up to me playing professional golf was made me scared, right? Because I knew that at any given time, this arthritis is so unpredictable, and that I can do everything that I can to manage it. But at the same time, it's got its own agenda, and I can take a swing and I can get a sharp jolt of pain, or I can have a joint collapse on me. And it was really working on the mindset of being able to let it go and work with what I had. I go, this is what I'm able to do, right? I know that if I try to train like somebody else does, it's not going to work for me. I had to be really individualistic on my training and stuff, understand where my buffer zones were, what my limitations were, and then really be confident in executing that. And that means making some hard decisions, right? Like, there are guys that would, after rounds of golf, go out and have dinner or celebrate or whatnot, and I'm the guy that's back in the gym doing the rehab stuff, because I know that if I don't do that, the consequences for me are much greater than somebody else, because I've got this condition. So it was really taking sort of control. The team, that my physiotherapist at Pain Pro, like that team gave me the confidence in educating myself about my condition, to be like, okay, I know that this is what I have to do, and if I do this, I have a chance. And then from there, you submit to the best effort that you possibly can. And being able to accommodate with that feeling, being able to be okay with that feeling of, as soon as that ball's in the air, there's nothing I can do with it. If I give it my best effort, there's not a whole lot more that I can do without that. And that is what I'm proud for. Absolutely.
So you've had quite a journey with your disease through golf, and that's led you to get into advocacy, which I applaud. That's amazing. Tell me about becoming involved as a patient on the patient advisory board with Arthritis Research Canada.
Absolutely, yeah. So I was on the patient advisory board basically from 2019 right up until 2025, and I thought it was when I came back after college and I came back to Vancouver for a little bit. I was looking for some way for me to get back involved with the arthritis community. And it started because I had that flare in college. And it changed the whole way that I thought about the arthritis. It made me take a really forward-thinking, proactive approach to managing the condition. Because throughout my pediatric care, the mindset of handling my condition was medication, scans, blood work, imaging, adapt the medication accordingly. There wasn't a whole lot of lifestyle, active rehab, or some of the more natural side of taking care of your body and just listening to what it does, and even the mental side of arthritis that was taken into account of my care. And when I started doing that and going in that physio and chiro route, everything sort of changed. Um, because I had found that sort of approach that I knew was working, it was leading me down a path of being able to play professional golf. I wanted to start paving that road for others. And that's what led me to get into getting involved with Arthritis Research Canada. Part of me actually feels a little bit bad because there's so much great work that they're doing. There's so many research studies and opportunities for patients and researchers to get involved. Once I turned pro and debuted, my schedule exploded and I was touring and around, and I was not able to make a lot of the meetings and all the stuff that I really wanted to get involved with. I couldn't commit to the way that I wanted to because I was putting in 70-hour practice weeks and going around that schedule. But between that, I was also able to find the Arthritis Foundation in the US. And I also learned that from my team that me playing on tour and some of these tournaments, I am a symbol. I represent something, and I wanted to be in control of what that was. And for me, it was the message that I sent, right? Which is that you can have a chronic condition, an injury, an ailment, and with strategic management and education, you can achieve your goals, right, within reason. And so it was taking that message and finding a larger platform to be able to present that. And that's where doing the advocacy work with Arthritis Research Canada, participating in some research studies, meeting some really incredible people, not just on the patient advisory board, but on the research side as well, that were pioneering new opportunities and ways to manage our conditions. And then other people that are helping to spread the word out through the Arthritis Foundation, through the fundraising, and then meeting other kids that were basically where I was. And what I remember when I was, 7 years old, 8 years old, is I wish that I had somebody in front of me that could help me, even from a not just a kid side, from a parent side. I wish that I had somebody that could be like, you know what, this is what you can expect. So it just wasn't so scary, and we just weren't so in the dark of what was going on. Like, the whole arthritis community is doing the best that they can of opening up doors and create and being able to provide us new information of how to manage and how to help ourselves. But there's still so much we need to uncover. And what I wanted to do was be the guy that somebody who was in my position before me could come up to and say, you know what, I'm scared. And I go, you know what, I've done this before, and let's do this together. Yeah. And that's the main drive behind getting involved with that kind of stuff, is helping the next person behind me, because I wish I had that when I was there. And now I have the ability to do that.
And for the little kid that maybe finds you, maybe hears this podcast, maybe reads about you somewhere, what do you say to that little kid who's been recently diagnosed with JIA and they feel like their dreams are just taken away?
I think that when we're young, one of the things that my arthritis, I would say, forced but created a really positive blessing for me was it forced me to become mature very quickly. Every time things hurt and every time, something didn't go my way, it kind of felt like it was the end of the world. And the biggest sort of thing that I got from my physiotherapy team was that it's not. It's that when the arthritis is going to bring you down, and I would wish it was this constant steady of predictability. It's not. It has its days where it's good and bad. And like you said, it's invisible to the outside person. They can't see what's happening inside, right? And so what I would say, and I think what really helped me, was learning about your body, learning about the condition, both from an academic perspective and from what's out there in terms of resources and research and stuff, but just how you feel. When you do X, this is what I feel. When you do Y, this is how I feel. And really sort of honing in on your personal awareness education of, okay, this is how I know that I have to create the lifestyle or live this certain way in order for me to do what I want to do. And just realize that with every bad day comes a good one. It's not just all bad, right?
That's right.
Every good day, every bad day comes a good one. And with that, when you put in the work, when you put in the effort of managing your conditions, when you do have those good days, you're able to do something that you go, hey, you know what? Like, I was able to do that. Think about all the times that you made a sacrifice where you were like, you know what? I have to listen to my body because of this. I have to take my meds to do this. Or, you know what? I can't participate in that because I want to be able to do this. It makes those good days feel so much better because you actually did a good job managing your condition and it created an outcome that you wanted. And we sort of take those miniature goals and miniature wins and stack them up one by one. And we go, there's always a way that we can move forward. And that there's sort of, I want to say be too corny with this, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's not just all bad, right? And then with that, go seek out resources. I mean, there are, no matter where you are across the world, frankly, there are organizations out there that have mentorship programs, that have research opportunities, that have patient ambassadors or stuff like me that you can reach out to for help. Like I had a kid who, and this is, I think, one of my favorite reasons as to why I do the work that I do, was I had a kid that I was mentoring with a mentorship program in the US, and it was a 13-year-old kid that just been diagnosed with juvenile arthritis and was going for his first MRI. And he'd never been in an MRI machine before. And he was really scared. And I don't blame him. I was terrified for my first MRI. And what we ended up doing was we simulated it together. So I told him to go and, at night, I said to turn the lights off in your room. And I want you to go and lie under your bed. Take some earphones. And we went on YouTube and looked for the sound of an MRI machine. And we just simulated it and had that noise blasting in his ears while I was there on FaceTime with him and just tried to simulate what that experience was. And once the MRI came, he came out and he was like, yeah, that's what's a piece of cake. I'm like, because we did it beforehand. And I knew that I had an ability to help that kid out because I'd done that before. I knew what to expect. And I'm like, how can I help that kid predict what's going to happen? Because that's the thing that the arthritis takes away from me, is that predictability. We have no idea what's going to happen. And we can inject some of that back in and then have that predictable outcome. And it meant the world. I wish I was with him in person to be able to do that and see the look on his face when he came out. But that's the reason we do that. So
that's great. That is just great. Now, before I let you go, I want to just touch on what you're doing now. You're coaching, you're teaching. So tell me what's going on in your world with golf now.
Absolutely. So after about 4.5, 5 years of playing competitive golf on the pro circuits and whatnot, unfortunately, I've had to, for my medical reasons, change the way I look at my arthritis and stuff again. I'm at a point where I have transitioned into becoming an apprentice professional with the PGA of Canada, and I'm working as a golf instructor here in Vancouver at the Hazelmere Academy by Hush Golf. And now taking all of the things that I've learned from playing competitively and the things that my coaches did when I was young, growing up and learning to play golf, and transitioning that and bringing it into the next generation of golfers. So I now work with players that I get the privilege of working with players that are really elite and ultra competitive players that are looking to go play on the PGA Tour or the LPGA Tour, and I get to help them along their journey. I also work with complete new beginners and those that have conditions and ailments and injuries, and really just help them build a swing that works for them, find a game that works for them, and being able to become pain aware when they play and enjoy it as much as they can.
That's fantastic. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today because your story is so inspirational, and you've also got me thinking about golf again. So if it ever stops snowing here, I can get back out on the course.
What do we say? There's light at the end of the tunnel, right? So
there is, but right now there's snow at the end of my window. But but thank you so much, Sadiq. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having me on, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure having you along. Remember to share the podcast, be it for listening or for YouTube. It's all there for you. Share it with your family or your friends. Subscribe, follow, and make sure you keep up on when the next episode is dropping. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, keep moving forward with arthritis.